Welcome back to another episode of the Conquer Cast. Question for you.
Answer.
When all is said and done, how do you feel like you'll measure your life? All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Conquer Cast. Very special guest here today that I got to know, I don't know, was it about 6 months ago, but I've been watching you for a while. The CEO, founder of Ollin, Nathan Goodrich. Grateful to have you here. We had a conversation just a few months back, sitting across this table, getting to know each other, and I'm just super impressed with everything you've done, your history, your business, the entrepreneurialism in your life and in your family, and the family man that you are and man of faith that you are. And I want to dive into kind of all of that, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, good to be back here. The lighting's so much better now. You must have hired an expert.
We've got Spencer sitting behind the camera here.
Way to go,
we were
Spencer.
just talking about the updates to the podcast studio. The lighting is really good. I like it. The Conquer Cast logo is, it's bold and it's visible now, and so no, it's fun. We've got a few guys here, Cody and Spencer behind the camera, to listen in. But all of you that are listening in, thank you. If you've been with us for a while, appreciate the listening. Please subscribe. Please share this. And I want to just go all in with you today on this. And I want to talk about the brand as well, because we have a little bit of a connection through that. We'll get to it. But in a kind of a snapshot, who are you? What is Ollin? And then we'll start back and go through history with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me on, first of all. Nathan, I grew up in Shelley, Idaho, small town about 3 hours north of here. Always been super passionate about startups. I don't know if I was forced to because I wasn't the brightest student in the classroom, or if it was just my ADD personality.
Hey, maybe that was my deal too, because I couldn't get the grades and the ADD personality. So maybe we were just on. Maybe this is what we're meant to do.
Yeah. My dad's an accountant, so he's a CPA. Been doing that his whole career, and my brother went into finance. And when I was in school, when I attended the University BYU Idaho, that was the only class I had to retake. So I knew I couldn't take the same route that they took with careers, so I had to do my own thing. So awesome. Just been passionate about startups, been involved in them for over a decade. While I was attending BYU Idaho, I knew I couldn't have a full-time job and get good grades as a full-time student. So I started a little window cleaning business and started hustling, knocking doors, and I'd go wash some windows, come back, do my studies, go to school, graduated school, and I had built kind of a book of business doing that. Cool. And so I kept growing that and expanded and started offering other services like carpet cleaning. And then eventually this was kind of where there was a ton of hype around door to door. Yeah. And I got approached to go sell actually TV systems for Dish Network. And I decided why would I go do that when I can just figure out how to do that here? So I started offering selling TV and internet services. So I just built this little business in Southeast Idaho, and things were going good, but I kind of had just felt, I grew up in Southeast Idaho, went to BYU Idaho and Southeast Idaho, and I just kind of felt like I needed to expand my network. And so I just kind of set some personal goals to build some new relationships and started reaching out to different individuals and connected with an entrepreneur out of the Utah area called, his name's Corbin Church. He started and sold multiple companies. I think Michi was like a bag company. He sold one of his big ones, and got connected with him and found out there was a friend that was taking a class from him. And
does he do like a mentorship incubator type thing? Is it iHub or something? Is that him? Okay.
Yep, that's Corbin. Yep. And so my buddy was taking an entrepreneur class from him at BYU, so he got to know him. And anyways, when he graduated, they actually started a little company together called KTC Innovation. So that was just Corey, Tom, and Corbin. And at BYU Provo, there's all these business ideas that come through that program, from students, from teachers, and a lot of times people will do researches on them. Sometimes the school will even get patents on them, but then they just sit on this shelf. I think it's called the tech transfer office. Okay. And so you got all these different business ideas that are sitting on this shelf, and these guys thought it would be a really good idea with Corbin's background to take some of these ideas off the shelf and go spend 3 to 6 months validating them in the marketplace to see if these businesses could take off. And one of the technologies that my buddy was actually going out and validating was this idea, this concept called sign glasses. So it was remote sign language and captioning through smart glasses. So geared for deaf and hard of hearing folks. Wow. There's thousands of them across the world that don't have access to good qualified interpreters. This idea was they can put on these glasses and connect with an interpreter remotely and actually see them in the glasses. So they could be talking to you and see an interpreter like in the corner of their eye at the same time. And
so the glasses are seeing me speak, and the interpreter's signing for
and
them.
the interpreter's connected in a remote location, and they're signing in real time, and it's being fed back to the glasses, like overlaid in real time.
Wow.
And Corey was out validating that and felt like he was getting a really good response from the market. And that's when, through just me networking with Corbin, knowing Corey, they reached out to me and said, hey, we don't have any money, but do you want to come earn ownership in this company, leave Idaho, come here, and you would have ownership or earn ownership in this company and try to get it off the ground. And talked to my wife, and at the time, I would say this was probably almost 9 years ago. We were doing pretty good financially with that little thing that I was building, like 10 grand a month probably, and
knocking doors,
selling
window washing, and
window
TVs,
washing, and all the things, whatever they needed done. Like, that was the best part. Like, hey, you don't need TV. Okay, well, your windows are dirty. You want me to clean those? Like, okay, sweet. So they'd say yes to something.
Buy something from me, huh?
But we just felt like this was going to be an opportunity to get out of our comfort zone. And to really go learn entrepreneurship at an accelerated rate, in a very uncomfortable environment for us. So had one kid at the time, left. We were living off our savings, so moved to Utah, and I was responsible for like all the early business development for Sign Glasses. Wow. So we were entering business competitions, trying to win a little bit of capital, which fortunately we did. Found some early seed investors. Casey Baugh was one of them, from one of the guys from Vivint. And I ended up spending the next 6.5 years building Sign Glasses. So had vested some ownership there. We had grew the team. I think there was about 15 of us when I transitioned out. I had transitioned into full-time sales, and it was still going good. I'm still an owner in that company, still super passionate about what we built. And we ended up building a lot more than just the glasses. We built a whole platform for students where they could log onto their laptops, see a live video of the interpreter, a live video of the class, take notes, and it's all time-stamped and recorded so that they could go back and rewatch it. For a deaf student, like if they look down to take notes, their world goes mute, right? Yeah. And so having the access to go back and rewatch that was a super valuable tool.
Wow. How many interpreters did you have all around?
A ton.
And so they just have to be ready and available when somebody's having
on-demand interpreting is what it's called.
Wow.
Yeah. And we had some that were in-house, and then we had contracted with a bunch of others. And Utah's actually like one of the meccas of interpreters.
I believe it. Yeah,
like in the U.S.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so anyways, I had transitioned to full-time sales, but this was, I think, year 4 or 5. This is when COVID happened, and our whole team had kind of transitioned into remote roles. Kind of what you were saying happened here at MTN Ops, and this kind of got my family to decide we wanted to go back to Idaho, be closer to family. That's where her and I are both from, and so we moved back to Idaho, and I was still running that full time there. And then this is when the story of Ollin comes about. Sorry, it's kind of a long-winded way to get started there, but
it's good.
In 2020, I drew out. So I grew up hunting, super passionate about the outdoors, fishing, backpacking, canoeing, whatever it was.
You do this with your dad and brothers, and it's kind of
family thing. It was
tradition, like back for a long time, or where did this outdoor?
Yeah, so my dad, he grew up with 10 siblings, and they literally lived off of mule deer and elk. They lived off of wild game, and so for them, it was a chore. And fortunately for me, out of like the 10 siblings that he had that would go out, harvest mule deer, they did everything themselves, all the butchering, and they would live off it for the year. Most of them saw it as a chore, but my dad fell in love with it. And so when I was old, I think the first time I was out was 6 or 7 years old, going out with him and Grandpa on a mule deer hunt. And so it was introduced to me at a young age, and I fell in love with it because of that.
That's cool.
And so 2020 drew out on a once-in-a-lifetime bighorn sheep hunt, and hunted elk and deer my whole life. Bighorn sheep is completely different animal. Field judging them, knowing how to find and harvest a mature ram, it was just a completely different challenge for me. And so that was the first time I took this concept of digiscoping, recording and taking pictures with your phone through an optics seriously. And so I wanted to just get as much videos as we could of these sheep. And one of the particular days we were out on the hunt, and we had invested a lot of miles, you know, just research an area on Google Earth. And we were probably 10 miles in, 10,000 feet in elevation, and I glassed up like one of the biggest rams we had seen. And at the time, I had a competitor product. I had pulled out my spotting scope, and I just spent so much time trying to get it connected. And the phone was literally falling off, and this bighorn sheep was like walking into some thick trees, and I missed that opportunity. Wow. And that's where the pain point like became real to me. And I was like, man, we got to come up with something better. And so
the entrepreneur in you kicked in right there.
I mean, and at the
you
time,
solve problems, right?
Yeah. And if you watch, like, if you go to YouTube and watch like Ollin, Why We Did It, there's like a 2-minute intro video that we launched, you know, back in 2022. We launched the company. I included the actual footage of my phone. You can see it shaky, and you literally see the phone fall off, and you can hear my whiny voice in the background complaining about it. But we included that in that launch video. So anyway, fast forward a few months, I had come up with this idea of magnetic digiscoping. I remember I grabbed a piece of paper, not an artist. I drew circles with circles on it. Looked terrible, but I remember I picked up that piece of paper and looked at it, and I just got this impression, like, don't let this just be an idea that sits on a piece of paper. Like, go do something with this. And so that got me a little bit fired up. And so I remember, like, that day, told my wife, I'm going to Walmart, went and bought plastic, cell phone cases, magnets, glue, tape, tried putting something together. Epic fail. I'm like, what am I doing? And it was not going anywhere. So this is when I spent probably about 2 weeks watching YouTube videos on how to do basic CAD designs. Anybody that's an engineer could have done what I was trying to do in about 2 minutes. I was trying to do a circle with circles in it, right? And so I had got probably 80% of the design that I had envisioned in my head done, and then I had a cousin that came and helped me make a few tweaks to it. 3D printed these plastic circles, slid some magnets into them. One of the magnets, polarity, I accidentally like flipped over, and so I had a circle on the phone side that I had to figure out which one was flipped, and flip that one too. And I remember the first time I tried to put on the scope, it didn't fit, so I was like hand sanding this piece of plastic at my house
to give it more,
just to give it a little bit more size, and finally got it to fit on the spotting scope that I had. And I remember the first time I did it, like the phone, you know, I had the spotting scope set up, adapter on there, and the phone just like slapped onto the scope, and it worked. And I was like, whoa. And I remember like just doing that like over and over, and I was like looking at the competitor products that I had already bought and tried, and I'm like, okay, those look better right now, but if I'm back on the mountain looking at that bighorn sheep, like I'd rather be using this.
100%.
And that's kind of like when the, you know, the entrepreneur side of me kicked in. It's like, okay, what do I do from here? So Sign Glasses, obviously, like that's a software and a service.
Yeah.
This was going to get me exposed to consumer good, right? And consumer good in a space that I'm passionate about. And so I was just super intrigued about the learning. So remember, at this time, I've got a couple of kids now, full-time Sign Glasses, which I'm not neglecting. I'm still making over 100 calls a day. So everything that I was trying to do for this was in the evenings, on the weekend, trying to get something built. So I was researching how do you create a patent, how do you get a trademark, manufacturing, like design, like everything. And that's kind of where I was at with it. I got one of my really, really good friends who, fortunately for us, is now full-time at Ollin. His name's Paul. He's head of engineer right now. We're actually going to give him a promote. He's going to be the VP of Ollin here soon.
Very cool.
But I got a hold of him, and he helped me. He's an engineer. He helped me kind of tweak the design and make it so it was more pretty, like awesome. Function the way it needed to function. And I remember as I was doing all of this, I had actually raised, I think it was just a small round of $100,000. And most of this was from family. Fortunately for me, I've got family that's got just a vast array of skills, awesome. Accountants, marketers, some that do web development. And so it was like, I wanted to raise some funds, but I wanted to be a little strategic, and it just happened to be the family was both.
That's awesome. So they have helped in the businesses with the accounting and web development and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, my dad and my brother, especially on the finance side.
Awesome.
Yep, definitely.
Are they involved full time, or are they just kind of?
Nope, they all do their own thing. Still making way more money than me probably, but they've been able to help. They have ownership here, and they've been super ecstatic to see it succeed. And
so in these moments where you're like, I've got this full time thing with the sign glasses, you've got this idea you're doing at night. What's your wife doing? What's she saying to you? How's she feeling about things?
Dude, that's like one thing that I've been so blessed with a wife that's supportive of me just pursuing what it is I've desired to pursue without ever complaining. Mm-hmm. She's extremely frugal. She's scrappy. And so she's always been able to be a full-time mom, which, they're the best entrepreneurs on the planet. Yeah. Always having to pivot, always having to change their offerings to their customer, their kids. And she's just been so supportive. And it's not like I haven't taken it for granted, but, I've seen close friends or family who haven't had that same support, and it creates a wedge in the relationship when you don't have a spouse that's, or vice versa. When you can't support each other in your passions, it can create a wedge. And so I've been super fortunate that she's been willing. She was willing to get up and move to Utah and be scrappy there. And once we got sign glass to the point, we're like, oh, finally, like healthy salary, we're getting comfortable. It's like, yeah, babe, we're gonna go do this again.
I got this idea. That's awesome. You told me a story about her when we met last, and I think it was a Christmas gift or something that she had kind of surprised you with, and to go out. Can you share that with us? Because I just thought that how cool she did this behind your back and kind of reached out to someone and put something together for you.
Yeah, this will be a good transition to the next steps of Ollin too, and where we were at there. So I've had social media, for years, but I was never like someone that like followed and had all of these like idols that like, oh, I got to meet these people. But Shed Crazy, Ben Dedamonte, that's his platform, is Shed Crazy on Instagram. His content resonated with me because it was just funny. Yeah. It just like, I thought he was a funny guy, and I started following him, and I started showing my wife some of the videos of him and some of the jokes he was making. And she's the type of person that's super sentimental with gift giving. Yeah. I'm the type of person that's like, here's some AirPods, like, not a lot of thought. She's like, I want meaning behind the gifts I give you. And she had actually, so this is before Ben kind of does the whole social media thing full time now, but this was before he did that. Okay. But she ended up emailing him. I don't even know how she got his email, and asked if he would be willing to do a shed hunting trip with me as a surprise gift for Christmas one year. And so I had no idea she had done that. Christmas morning, we're opening presents, and all of a sudden she's playing this video for me, and this dude with his big beard, like his picture's like in our living room, and she had kind of planned this like hunt with me to go to Shed Crazy. And what was crazy is we couldn't align our calendars for 2 years, and the year we finally made it work was the year I happened to have prototypes and was getting ready to go test.
Pretty amazing timing.
Oh yeah, tons of divine intervention, whatever you want to call it. And so I went and met with him. Through him, met some other folks, and he was actually part of. So now, fast forward, I had raised some capital, like I mentioned before. Mm-hmm. I had actually got my first batch of products here, and we were going to launch, I think, in March of 2022. And I was in Utah at this random building. I think it was near Farmington Station. Mm. In fact, I think it was. I think it's the Bucked Up building or something. I think it was next door. Anyways, I was filming content with Ben, Shed Crazy, for like, we were filming our intro video. Mm-hmm. We were sitting at a table, we had the product, we were introducing it, and I had been filming all day. I would film some content. I had an uncle that was helping me with that, and then I'd run to my computer, make calls for sign glasses, run back, and after we got done with all that, I was walking out of the building, and there was this room with like just big glass partitions. And I recognized some of the Mountain Ops guys in there. And I was like, oh, the Mountain Ops guys are here. And I remember I was talking to my wife, and she's like, oh, it looks like the Mountain Ops. And I didn't know their names. I didn't know who they were at the time. Yeah. I just knew that they were the Mountain Ops guys. Yeah. And that happened to be Jordan and Casey. And I was getting ready to leave. My wife's like, why don't you go talk to him? I was like, what am I going to say to him? Like, I don't have any. Anyways, I was wearing a Mountain Ops shirt that day, and I had a Mountain Ops mug. So I looked like a total fanboy. But I walk up to the glass door, and I am holding like an optic and a box and thing, and I kind of wave to them, and they look at me, and I'm like, I don't know if they can hear me through this or not. So it's kind of this awkward exchange of me looking at them looking at me, and finally I think it was Jordan that opened the door, and I said, hey, like, Nathan, like, haven't seen you guys on social media as much, like, what's going on? I was asking about that, and that's when they shared a little story. But anyway, that's how I met some of your partners, Jordan and Casey. And I shared a story. I shared the product with them. They ended up bringing me into the room, and then we ended up talking for like an hour.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, but Eric Chesser, who's also a partner in Ollin, had shared with these guys the story about, like, shared about the product and stuff. And so they knew about me, and I was super surprised. I'm like, how do they even know me or about this? But anyways, we ended up forming a partnership. And some of the advice that Jordan and Casey gave me early on was, let's brand this thing. We need to rebrand, because the original name of the company is going to be Magscope. Yeah. So all my boxes, they were black, and they had a big MS on it for Magscope. And they kind of challenged me to come up with a new company name that was more broad, so we wouldn't pigeonhole ourselves into something so product focused. Yeah. And I immediately loved that advice, even though I bought all the product. And then they also told me, oh, you also need to delay your launch like 3 months. And so I had this weird moment where it's like, I've taken family's money, I've got product here ready to sell, and now these guys want to rebrand it, and I don't know how much that's going to cost or how that's going to look, and they're telling me to delay launch 3 months. So kind of put some pressure on me, but I think one of my strengths is just willing to trust people that are smarter than me and just go with it. And so I immediately went to work, and I really liked the idea that they shared with me of rebranding. It kind of resonated with me because my personality is, I'm very mission and vision driven. Yeah. Like, I want to know what's the why behind what I'm doing. Yeah. Right. It's not to just sell a product. Yeah. Right. Like, that's important, but it's not to do it. That's not like the main goal. So I had already been writing down some ideas of what's going to be our mission statement at Ollin. And this is where your buddy, Kevin Hall, in the book Aspire comes into play. I found out last time we were together that you guys have a relationship and you know him, but I was listening to his book or reading it. I can't remember which, and one of the chapters in that book. So for those that don't know, it's called Aspire, and this book is about the power of words and how they influence our lives. So Kevin's traveled and learned about all these different cultures, and he takes a word from those cultures that has meaning to those people and shares how it can have meaning in our lives and what we do. Yeah. And so it's a really awesome book. If you haven't read it or listened to it, go do it. But one of the chapters in that book was this word all in. Yeah. And essentially it's an ancient Aztec word. When a big storm or earthquake would shake the earth, these Aztecs would yell in urgency this word all in. And it literally translates into moving and acting with all your heart right now. Yeah. And I remember I read that and I was like, man, that's exactly how I felt when I picked up that really crappy drawing, several months back. And then I kept reading more about that word, and it's also on the Mexica sunstone, and it signifies the moment somebody becomes aware of what they can become. Yeah. And it was in that moment that the vision for me and the company became clear. Like, our vision, which is the why, is we want to help people become aware of what they can become. Mm. Something we will always be chasing and can never 100% achieve, which is why I love it. It's always a target that we can be aiming towards. And then our mission statement, which I believe is the how, is through our innovative products, strategic partners, the content and experiences we create. We want to connect people to their passions and hopefully inspire them to move and act with all their hearts. Yeah. So that became the why behind Ollin, and that's when we printed a flyer that said this, we're rebranded Ollin, put them in all the initial orders, got ready for the launch, yada, 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 awesome. And launched it. And it gave me just a lot clearer path. Yeah. And it's what made me decide to 100% leave Sign Glasses as far as an operator and to go all in on Ollin and to go full time. And then we ended up launching July of 2022. Yeah.
I love the story, man. And I love hearing about how the brand came to be and the connection there. I think what I've loved watching, on social media and everything, watching you, I've just observed from the sidelines how you've built, and it is very apparent that it's mission-driven, principle-based. The values matter to you, and that resonates with me. I feel like that's what Mountain Ops has been built around, it with a mission, with values that guide that decision, the decisions on a daily basis. And it's difficult. The business is difficult. And so when you've got all these decisions to be made or problems to be solved, it's a lot better when you have a set of core values. You already know how you're going to respond to them. You rely on those and you trust in those.
It simplifies the decision making
So much.
And Trevor and I recognize too, like not everybody is going to care or have the same passion that we do about our mission, but it gives us direction. Like we know that we still have to offer a quality product that solves a solution or solves a problem for somebody. Like I recognize that, but what's really cool to, I'm sure to you as and to us, is the team that's full time. They've bought into the vision. They've bought into that mission, and I see it in the way they handle trade shows and events like Cody. I've seen it how Paul handles product development, how careful we are, and how much we interact with customers when we're designing and building things. You know, in our customer support, you know, we're extremely aggressive with our warranties. Any question asked, anything, we just cover it 100%, and it's because it's part of who, it's part of our deed, it's part of our mission, right?
I love it.
So
I think some people may not care. I think most people that work for an organization want to feel that they're part of something bigger than, you know, than just themselves, bigger than just a word or a name on a product, but like, what does that mean, and how are we going to make sure that the world knows that? And I love that Kevin was a part of that process. Just for those that don't know, Aspire is a book you should read. Kevin's a native Utah guy here. He found out that here at Mountain Ops, we were reading the book Aspire. I had read it when it first came out. I don't know if it was back in like 2010 or something, but I read it at another business that we had, and I loved learning about the power of these words that he was going into. One of my really good friends, Chad Hymas, now is a good friend of mine and a mentor of mine because of that book. It brought us together. But a customer of ours saw on social media that we were reading Aspire as our Conquer More book club for the month, and reached out and said, "Hey, I know the author. He's a good friend, family friend of ours. I've had a major transformation with Mountain Ops. I've told him about Mountain Ops. Can I put you guys together?" So the next day we're on a call together, and Kevin Hall said, "Could I come to your book club?" And I was like, "You want to come as the author to our book club?" Yeah, this is awesome. We don't often have the authors of these books.
You're like, for a small fee, you can come in.
Yeah. And so the next Tuesday he was at our book club, and he didn't just jump in and say, "Here's what the book is all about." He let our team led the discussion, and then he added to, and obviously we're like, "Hey, take your time." And so it was, you know, what would have been awesome. Like a 20-minute, it went another hour just listening to Kevin dive into a word for the week. And then the next week he came back up and did the next word. And he brought in the book, it talks about the book of greats that he received from a friend in India that gave him this book. And it's this old book that has all these pages in it. And you've got Gandhi and you've got Mother Teresa, all these people that have signed this book. And he brought the book of greats up to Mountain Ops. And he said, "I'm going to leave this up here with you for a week." And I was like, I don't want to have to, you know, take care of this book. What if something happens in my care? But he left it here, and he says, here's 2 pages. I want this to be for the Mountain Ops team. You are some of my greats, and so I want you to be in here. So the whole Mountain Ops team wrote in there their word, like their word for the year, and signed their name next to it. Guess what my word was?
What?
All in.
Really?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because back in the day when I was getting into supplementation before Mountain Ops, I'll have to show you these logos at some point, because the company was going to be called All In Nutrition. To move and act now with all of my heart. Like that's what I ended up calling it Phoenix Nutrition.
Now you guys know if we have trademark issues, it's because he beat us to it and he's coming after us.
I didn't do it. I thought, somewhere down the road I'm going to know somebody else with the word all in. So no, we ended up calling it Phoenix Nutrition, and that exists, but obviously Mountain Ops is where I spend my time. But I've loved the word and the meaning behind that word. I love the connection. Kevin Hall does an event every year called the Genshai, which is the main word in that he kind of focuses in on, which is to never do or say anything to make anyone feel small, including yourself.
Right.
And this was the word that Indian individual shared with him as he gave him the Book of Greats, and told Kevin, like, never do anything to make yourself feel small or others feel small. And so he taught him that word, and that's kind of where his love of words started to kind of build. But he's had me come speak at his Genshai retreat a few times, and then I've had so many connections to so many great individuals, just greats that are in my life because of that book. And so I love that there's that connection and that movement that you found in your life, through that word and the meaning. And so it's
and there's cool. There's so much more. We brought up just a really snippet of the meaning of that word, but I mean, take the time to read that book and you'll see that there's so much more depth to that word. I mean, just imagine what our lives would be like if every aspect of our life, whatever we're trying to improve, whether it's relationships, whether it's health, physical, mental, your spiritual health, like if you could commit and go all in, like how much better life would be. And so I just love that part of it. And you're always trying to improve and, you know, make your life better. And so it's just like that word always reminds me of like, hey, do it with courage, take action. You're going to mess up, you're going to fall. But as long as you're moving forward and you're moving with intent, you're going to get to where you need to go.
I love that.
So yeah,
I want to continue to hear your story, and then I want to come back to that. I want to hear how you're going all in with your family and with your faith and what you're doing, because this podcast is the Conquer Cast. It's about helping individuals equip themselves with more ways to conquer in life, to go all in. And I want to hear different realms of your life and how you're going all in. But tell us the rest of the story, where you know until today, what's happening at All In now, and you launched in 2022 with your product, and how's it been going?
Yeah, so now we're at an interesting stage of the business, right, where we've got 3 years behind us now. And I think for startups, just the data shows it's typically the first 5 years that make or break companies, right? And so fortunately, we've got great traction. We've been able to surround ourselves with an incredible team and some incredible partners. And now we're looking back at the last 3 years. We're trying to organize the data. And I get super passionate about this because, you know, just taking matter unorganized, like the scripture saying, and organizing it and trying to do something with it. Like that's essentially what we're trying to do every single day. That's what we did with All In, right? There's magnets existed, digiscoping existed, plastic existed, and we kind of combined it all and made this awesome product. And so what we're doing, Cody and I were just having this conversation with Eric, one of our partners, is, you know, we're trying to forecast what we want the next 4 to 5 years to look like. And that's everything with our messaging, with our marketing, with our financial goals. We're in a position now where we're super fortunate, where we have no debt, and we've been able to operate this thing 100% off of sales, meaning awesome. 8 full-time salaries, benefits, all the other expenses. I got to go buy this guy a nice truck today, I guess. It's all been because of incredible customers buying and supporting our brand. And so what we're trying to look at right now is, I feel like what I recognize as I look back at these last 3 years is, as a brand, we've been super opportunistic. This came because of a pain point I had on a hunt, right? And I came up with a solution. And a lot of our marketing and everything that we've done has been reactive to certain things. This year, we're really trying to focus and shift on being strategic over opportunistic, and then focus more on depth with our customers over breadth. I think with the world going the way it's going with technology, AI, which are incredible tools that we should all use, I think the need for intimate, in-person, human-to-human interactions is so relevant and necessary. And so our theme for this year is connect more. And so everything that we're building as a company is going to be stemmed off of this message of connecting more. So now we take that message and we break it up by quarter. I'm sharing some insights to our company, guys.
I love it. Well, you guys do this kind of on Tuesday. You have like a team meeting where everyone can view.
Every team Tuesday, cool. We talk about it. We want people to feel a part of the brand, and they are a part of the brand. And so now we're taking that theme, and this is where we'd love to figure out a collaboration with MTN Ops and what you guys do in your mission. But, you know, each quarter we'll come up with a specific theme, like connect more to your health, right? And then we'll break that down by those 3 months, January, February, March. Like, that's a lot of times when people are thinking about, I've got to get my physical health in order. I've got to get my body in the right shape. And so then we'll run micro campaigns that, you know, our products will speak to that message of connecting people more, like get out, use our stuff. That's the cool thing about our products. Like, if you're using them, you're usually outside. You're getting out and doing stuff. You know, run some micro giveaways with companies like you, where we bring in like-minded brands, like, you know, have MTN Ops supplements be part of the giveaway. We work with some ambassadors. You know, I've got a trainer that I work with called Tyler. His brand is Knock Performance, and he helps me with some stuff. So maybe we offer like a free 1-year subscription with Tyler, and bring in Eric Chesser, who's always passionate about his food and how he's eating. And we now break up that quarter by these micro campaigns that hopefully connect people more to that message. And then next quarter, we'll do something different, like connect more maybe to relationships, and we'll figure out ways to do that. And so as a brand, that's what we're striving to do. Those pillars that I brought up in our mission, strategic partnerships, innovative products, they're always going to be things we focus a lot on. And with us, our product is, once you buy it, you don't have to come back and buy it every month, right? It's different than a supplement where it's like, these are consumables. Yeah. People go through them in a month. I know I do. I use Ignite all the time every morning for my workouts. And when I'm done, I need to go order some more. So for us, like, we have to be super well connected with our customers and know what other problems they're facing out there so that we can innovate and build new products. And so, that we're going to be always focusing on those pillars. And so that's what, as a company now, that's where we're at. Cool. Expanded the team. It allows me to focus kind of on some more vision, high level type like goals. And then I've got incredible folks that are way better operators than me in different aspects, whether it's the product development, the trade shows and events and things like that. But that's kind of where we're at. And
it's awesome, man.
I don't even remember the original question, but hopefully
just how are things going? Where's it at? That's great. And congratulations. I love the heart and soul of it all. And it's there's so much to it, so much more to it. And it's fun because when I go out on hunts, people are like, hey, do you have your Ollin? Do you have your Ollin? It's like it's going on these adventures with people, you know.
Or where's your Ollin? It's
like I've had to correct quite a few.
We have people say that too, and we knew that would happen. But obviously, you know the meaning, and hopefully over time people catch on to that.
Oh, that's cool. And the way you're treating people and connecting with people, I say it's through connection that we conquer. So we'll hold events here where it's a connect and conquer event. So I love that
I admire you guys about that.
Doing the connection piece of it all is incredible. So. Thanks for sharing the story. Congratulations on where you're going. It's incredible. I've loved watching it. I love that we're more in touch now, and we would love to be involved in what you're doing, especially knowing
Let's get our brands more associated, and then we do need to go do a hunt together. That'd be awesome.
We do.
And I don't care if it's high fence. I won't judge you or myself. If there's a sweet high fence, let's go do it.
It's awesome, man. Well, speaking of hunting, I know you just did a pretty incredible hunt with your father and your brother. Is that right? In your family, is there just you have one brother and
3 sisters? 3 sisters, and they're all married to incredible brother-in-laws, and so I'm pretty fortunate.
You guys all live close to each other.
We're all Southeast Idaho.
Are y'all?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yep, everyone really kind of stuck around. So
that's really cool. So tell us about that hunt and that adventure you just had.
Yeah, so my dad, like I said, he's been an accountant all his career, extremely busy hours. We had some family friends in one of our old wards who did this hunt in Northwest Territories, and it was with Arctic Red River Outfitters, and it was the Dall sheep, moose, and caribou combo. And so he heard all about the stories from them, went and saw their, trophies on their walls, and he's literally dreamed about that hunt for 20 years. It's completely changed the game of hunting and these types of hunt now. It's completely changed now from what it was 20 years ago. It takes a lot of resources to be able to go out and do it. They're expensive. And 2 years ago, he decided, he's like, I'm not getting any younger. I'm going to pull the trigger. So he pulled the trigger and he bought that hunt 2 years ago. And this was the year that it happened to fall upon. Cool. And this was super special. I haven't even posted on social media about this yet because it's one of those like very intimate, special experiences for me because it was my dad that got me into hunting, right? It's my brother that got me into hunting. And so our calendars, it's harder and harder for us to align and get on hunts together. I'm extremely blessed that I am running a company in the space where I naturally can go and do hunts with strategic partners, relationships, ambassadors, employees, and we can legitimately create content and learn things about our products and our customers while we're on the hunt that I can
part of your work.
Yeah, it's part of my work. I can get out and do it more. And so this one was special because we got to go together, and it's a grind. It is 15 full days of hunting, not including another 6 days of travel front end, 3 on the front, 3 on the back. So it's a lot of logistics to get out there. And then the way it works is like my dad had the tags. I'll just tell you guys how much it costs because it's like, I'm not telling you guys this to like brag about how much money we spend on this. I'm telling you to educate like how much resources it takes. And so there's actually kind of some pressure when you're out there. So I think my dad for everything, including the travel, was probably around $100,000 all Ollin also covered. So my dad had the tags, and that was all included in that. And then me and my brother bought tags, which are not expensive. They're actually cheap, but what you pay for when you're out there with the outfitter is a trophy fee.
Yeah.
And I think the caribou go for like 12 grand,
Wow.
and then the moose go for like 30 or 20 something grand. And that's only if you like shoot and harvest one.
Gotcha.
But me and my brother, we were there to support my dad.
Yeah.
It was all about helping him fill his tags. But if the opportunity were to present itself, like
cool.
my brother, I would like go harvest that animal. So 15 long days we were out there, and I won't share too much of the details out there, but
did you film any of this?
A couple, yeah. I'm gonna have Logan's gonna put together a YouTube video for us, most
cool.
likely.
Okay.
Yeah, the poor guy's gonna have to sort through a lot of unorganized content because I'm not a content creator.
Yeah.
But I'll just share. I'm not going to share a ton about the actual, like all the in-depth hunting stories, because people probably get sick of hearing the hunting stories. But there's just a couple of experiences we had out there that just reminded me and taught me like super valuable principles that anybody can apply in their life. So, number one, like out there, you really do feel so small. It is so big. It is so remote. You're walking in places and terrain that most likely no one's walked before. You're seeing animals that might not have been seen before. And I remember looking around at everything and just feeling that like sense of like smallness. But then I just had this like eye-opening moment out there where I just realized and just had this strong impression. It's like, these were created for us. Yeah. These were created for us to enjoy and to find joy in these experiences. And it just shifted my whole outlook the rest of that hunt. And yeah, walking 5 miles on tundra compared to 5 miles out here, it's hard. A completely different challenge. And so my dad harvested his caribou first on day, I think 3, and then sheep was on day 7 or 8. And that was an incredible experience when he got a sheep. And then we needed to relocate areas. And the way you relocate out there is you're taking those small bush planes, multiple trips, gear, and people to get to a new spot where you set up a base camp. And we went to a new area.
What month was this in?
This was September. Yep. So this was the entire month of September is pretty much when we were out there. And the first area was definitely a sheep-focused area. There was some caribou. We ended up, like I said, my dad got a caribou out there, but there wasn't like any moose. We hadn't seen moose out there. So we relocated for the last 5 days of the hunt to a moose area. And it was on day 12. So our camp is right along this river system. And it's just imagine a giant valley that's pretty flat with a big river kind of going through it. And then tons of tundra country, and then the mountains are kind of outside of that. In the big valley, there's an area which is these giant pine trees. And the day before, day 11, we had just put in a 14-mile day, and a lot of that was tundra. Our bodies were shot, and it was me, my dad, and the guide. My brother had actually harvested a caribou out there, which was awesome, and him and another guide flew back to the main base camp that Arctic Red River Outfitters has. And he was at the base camp watching football, eating good food, and we were still out in the tundra just eating the dry meals and suffering. And so because we were so exhausted day 11, day 12, we decided to hike not that far from our camp to look down at this area that we had seen a pretty good moose before. And we just said, like, hey, if he turns up again, like that might be a shooter. And I got on this little glassy knob, and I could literally see camp from where I was sitting. My dad and the guide went down by the river into these thick trees and tried to position themselves in a spot where they thought the moose would come out. And long story short, I did glass the moose coming out of the trees, was able to communicate to them that, hey, you guys got to reposition, this moose is coming. And I've got all this all-in digiscoping footage of this moose, my dad, and this moose is walking. And you can see in my videos, there's just this fog that's rolling in, and it's thick. And you can see a video clear as day, just beautiful, gorgeous moose, big paddles, walking with the waddle. And then all of a sudden the video gets more blurry, and all of a sudden I can't see 10 yards in front of me.
Wow.
And then I hear a gunshot.
No way.
And so my dad ended up literally 2 minutes before he wouldn't have been able to see. He shot that moose at 550 yards, I believe.
Wow.
Hit it right where it needed to be. Put another one in him. They saw the moose drop, and then same thing, the fog rolled in, and they couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
Right. And because I had watched them and I knew where I needed to go, I literally just threw all my stuff on. I had been sitting under a rain tarp all day because it was moisture in the air. I threw everything in my pack and I ran because I was so excited for my dad. I was like, dude, he did it. He filled all 3 tags in 12 days. And I was so excited. Crossed this river, got super wet, got over to my dad and our guide Peter. And he was excited. And they hadn't got to the moose yet.
Yeah.
And it was so thick, the fog, we couldn't find the moose.
Wow.
And it was just like this crazy where it was so flat where they had shot it and so open. And this is a giant animal and we couldn't see it. And so it took us some time. My dad finally found, he just was walking in the thick fog and it was almost like a movie, like some scene from Lord of the Rings where out of the fog, there's just this giant paddle sitting there. And, we celebrated, had that moment, took some pictures together. And then we spent all night, like cutting, quartering, getting the meat. And I mean, it was just hundreds and hundreds of pounds of meat. Wow. And we're getting all ready. And it was a little nerve wracking because I had seen a grizzly bear in that canyon that morning that was on it was on my brother's actual carcass. That's the crazy thing. He was on a caribou. So I knew there was grizzlies in the area and I couldn't see from like me to Cody.
Wow.
And so my job during that whole thing is my dad and Peter were butchering. I had the shotgun and I was standing guard. And the whole time just getting wet, standing guard. And then
it's kind of an eerie feeling.
Oh, it was so eerie. So eerie. And I'm trying to set the preface of the principle that I brought up that we learned during this experience. It was special to me. So we get done and it's time to head back to camp. And guys, I could see camp from my glassing knob. We were 30 to 45 minute hike back to camp. After we got done, we said, okay, let's go back. We threw our packs on and we started looking around and all 3 of us were pointing different directions on which way we needed to go. We didn't know where to go. Wow. And out there, Onyx wasn't working. I hadn't downloaded the maps because when you're getting ready for this hunt, you don't know where you're going to be. So it's not like you can pre-download maps because it's so big. And I remember I could just hear the river, and the river was kind of our guide to get back. And we walked over to the river, but even after the river, we knew we needed to cross. We didn't know where, and we had crossed. Long story short, we spent like 3.5 to 4 hours hiking in the worst spots that you could possibly walk to get back to camp. And it was just so discouraging and frustrating, and you couldn't see. And I was just like, it was like the first time we had already been putting our bodies like to work, but I was so optimistic and just happy. We were so positive the whole time. And this was the first time I was frustrated because I knew this is a simple task that we're making so much harder than it needs to be. And I remember I wrote down,
the conditions can make it difficult, right? That's like puts you in a different state of mind.
100%. So in the Book of Mormon, it talks about, in First Nephi, it talks about the scripture that says, and it came to pass that there arose a mist of darkness, yea, even an exceedingly great mist of darkness, insomuch that they who had commenced in the path did lose their way, that they wandered off and were lost. And I was feeling that when we were in there.
This is my study this morning.
Oh, serious?
Yeah, that's serious.
And I was just feeling lost. And then in chapter 12, it expands on it. In the midst of darkness are the temptations of the devil, which blindeth the eye and hardeneth the hearts of the children of men, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, I remember that night I was really reflecting upon that experience and what happened. And this is when that whole reminder to me of having a vision, having purpose, and having direction is so crucial in life. And there are things that are going to happen in life that we can't control. Yeah. Couldn't control the tariffs that we just saw that impacted our margins on our products. I can't control what competitors are doing. I can't control what the economy is doing. There's just things that are going to come into our life that we can't control. And the reason we made it back to camp was because I got us back to the river. And the river was our constant that led us back to camp. Yeah, we took the hardest route possible to get there, but the river was like our constant. And so I remember just writing down, like, you've got to have direction in life and have something that is immovable that you can use as a guide when you're going through these difficult times, because we're all going to face it. We're all going to face winners in our life. We're all going to face trials and struggles. And if you have purpose and direction, you can get through it. And if you don't, even simple tasks become so frustrating. Yeah. That was what was interesting to me. We weren't doing, our packs didn't have any of the meat. The helicopter comes in and flies it out. So our packs weren't heavy. It was a short hike, but we made it so much difficult because we lost sight. We didn't have vision. You know what I mean? So anyways, that was one thing from the hunt that stood out to me, that I'll visual. I have a visual representation now of like that scripture means more to me now too. So.
Have you guys talked about that, you and your dad and your brother? And
yeah, we had a kind of a little family get together with my mom, our wives. It was the 6 of us, and yeah, I shared that experience with them. It created kind of a cool opportunity for all of us to share some, kind of our testimonies and different things that happened during that hunt. That's one of the reasons I love hunting, is there's just so many life lessons you can learn.
Yeah, if you're open to it, like the perspective that you gain on a hunt, especially when the conditions change or they become difficult, or you're having to find your way through something, and it's when there's no vision, the people perish, right? So when you lose sight, you kind of focus back in on what matters most, or you find those immovable things that in your life or in your circumstances that you can trust in and lean on. And it's pretty incredible. I love that you shared that. I love that's actually been, I just started the Book of Mormon over again. And so I was on chapter 8 this morning, and there's just always so much to learn from it. And in that story, for those of you that don't know, there is this mist of darkness. There's a field. There's a great spacious building. There's a river. There's a path. That leads to happiness and to God. And I love all the analogy around it. There's 3 groups of people in that. There's those that, and I call it the 3 C's. Those that commence in the path, and then because of the mist of darkness, and they lose their sight, and they don't try to find the immovable things that will keep them. They wander off and they're lost. Yeah. There's those that cling to, there's in this analogy, in this story, there's an iron rod, something for them to hold on to get to where they need to go. And there's some that are clinging. And as a kid, I always thought clinging sounds strong, but then the more I look at it, you go down to our gym down here, if you're just clinging onto a pull-up bar and you're barely hanging on, it's like all you can do to just, keep your fingertips on.
Well, and that's what's interesting. Like, that river was our iron rod. Yeah. And there were times where we just barely got off that, barely got off of the river. And guess what? We
lost.
Yeah. Because we were not cling, or I don't know what the right word is, clung. We weren't holding firm to that river, that iron rod, and it just created us to wander. And it was crazy because the guide was so intelligent and super knowledgeable. And I remember one time we got off, and I knew, he just started walking the opposite direction again. And I was like, no, I don't think. He's like, oh, really? And he didn't realize, we got off, and so we had to go back to the river and keep moving forward. So.
Interesting. Yeah, and the third C, the third group in that story that that Nathan's talking about, it's those that continually held fast to this iron rod. They didn't let go. There was nothing that would that would cause them to let go. But there's, in life, I feel like we all let go every once in a while, right? We're clinging, and we get distracted or whatnot. We're not as all in on things that we maybe should be. The connection that matters most isn't maybe there, and so we lose vision for a bit. And I think that's part of life. That happens, and we have the opportunity to come back and continually hold fast. But the more continual we can be, the greater the outcome. I love the analogy, and I love that
Pretty
about
awesome,
hunting as well. Yeah, thanks for sharing
and
that.
I'll tell you a tender mercy and a funny side of this story. So remember how I said the day before we did a 14-mile day? Mm-hmm. So we did that because the day before I had glassed up an absolute giant moose that was, as the crow flies, miles away, and we just knew it was going to take work to get there. So guys, remember what I said? My brother had killed a caribou and left, and he went to the base camp. And what's crazy is we were only about 15 miles from that base camp as the crow flies. And after my dad shot his moose, it was the next day. We couldn't actually get back to base camp yet because there was too much fog for the helicopter to come in. And I was messaging my brother on the inReach back and forth. He's back at camp. He's ready to see us. He's excited. And all of a sudden we get this message that a giant moose had walked to base camp. No. To the lodge. Wow. And my brother's like, should I shoot this thing? And I said, Adam, if it's a big moose, we'll help. Get it. Yes, if they're going to let you do it, go do it. Wow. Anyways, long story short, Sure enough, my brother shoots this giant moose.
Wow.
Like it's I can't remember what book is for Yukon all time. I think it's 226.
Wow.
And his went like 226 and 3/4.
Really?
And it only had like a 60-inch spread, so it's not like he was getting a ton of inches. The paddles are just so big.
Wow.
And we rewatched the video that I have from a long ways away over and over, and our gut tells us that was the moose that we were looking at. And when we flew the helicopter back the next day, like, it's literally almost like a straight path if you follow this tree line to that moose. And so I'm like,
wow,
how cool is it that like it played out that way?
Wow,
and
that's
so
amazing.
Yeah, it created kind of a really cool scenario. So,
was your brother sad he wasn't there for your dad's, or was it all?
Everybody was good. Our family's just so good at like cheering for each other's successes, and so he was just anxious for us to get back.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to see each other again, and we wanted to celebrate together. He wanted to see my dad's moose. He wanted us to see his moose, and so
cool.
It was pretty cool because then because we had harvested on day 12, flew back on day 13, we couldn't fly out for 2 days. So we had a couple of days to just really like soak it all up before we flew out. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. There's so much to life in that story, you know, that you can parallel life with, and the fog that can enter our life, the distraction, the lack of sight or vision of where we need to go, the danger that could be lurking out there with the grizzlies, or even the river that you're having to cross, or the terrain that you're walking on. How does I want to talk just about life and how you kind of face life all in, you know, with family. What do you do to be all in with family? You're a father, you're a husband, you're a busy entrepreneur, but I know that they mean most to you. How do you go all in with family? And for those that are listening, any advice you can give for them?
Yeah, I think what I've learned, I don't think it really matters what career path you've chosen. There's really no such thing as perfect work-life balance. And so what I've tried to focus on and am continually trying to work on, and by the way, not an expert yet, this is continual effort every single day, is wherever I'm at, be present in whatever I am focusing on. So while I'm at work, I need to be all in on work and give 100% of my time to my employees, to our customers. When I'm at home, I've got to learn to shut the phone off and be 100% all in.
Are you able to do that?
Family, not every time.
I've struggled.
No, it's a learning curve, and I find myself getting distracted. I get a call that's like, it's a partner or you know, a customer, I want to answer it and things like that. But that's what we try to do. And for me and my wife specifically, we go on dates every week. Cool. We hire a sitter. We've got 5 kids, so all under the age of 8, so it's extremely busy. And we just took them, we flew with our kids to Arizona to go to the Great Wolf Lodge. And cool. That's not a vacation for parents, just so you guys know. But it was a pretty cool experience for our kids. And so we're just trying to create these memories and experiences with our kids, get them out of the house, do things. You don't have to go on a big trip to do that. But my wife and I specifically, like almost weekly, we hire a sitter and we go, her and I, on a date.
What do you guys like to do for your dates?
We do dinner and chat.
Yeah.
Like we keep it pretty simple to us. It's like we need to chat. We need to be able to just visit without my work distractions, without the kids distracting. And so that's kind of what that's what we do. And obviously, like, you know, our faith plays a big part. Like our long-term vision goals align. And that's crucial when you're trying to move forward together. It's not perfect. We don't agree on everything, but what we do agree upon, it is our iron rod, right? And it's something that we can both stay consistent with. And so
is there something you guys do as a family to be all in on your faith? And then follow up to that question is like, what are you doing in your life to be all in with God?
Mm-hmm. So for me, one of the things that I strive to do is the simple act of just trying to be kind to people. Like, I think I am in this position at All In because I've always strived to connect and keep good relationships with individuals. And I think that's how Christ lived his life, right? Like, it didn't matter who they were, who he interacted with, their background. He was kind and he treated everybody the same. And so I've tried to do that. And what's interesting is looking back just on these last 3 years and All In alone, and who's involved, who's full time, and how have we gotten to where it's because of the simple act of just like being kind to people and keeping good relationships with people. Like Cody wouldn't be here had we not stayed in contact and been good to each other. Paul was working on way cooler and fancier aerospace, robotics, just fancy stuff. And he helped me finish the product just because we stayed in contact and we're good friends. And so I think just the simple act of being kind goes a long ways. And there's plenty of people that are going to take advantage of that, but you just can't let that bother you.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? It's that whole philosophy of give without the intent of receiving. I try to just do that. Like, I know I'm going to give some people free product that are going to end up going with somebody else or doing things, and you can't let that bother you. You do it out of the goodness of your heart and you move forward.
Love that.
And so
that's one of the things kindness is a Christ-like quality and attribute that I've had this conversation with family members, with friends quite a bit, and even within the walls of our own homes, like within family, just be more kind to each other, more, cut out the contention through kindness. So I love that. That's awesome. So you're being kind, what are you doing to connect with God and be all in with that relationship with him?
Yeah, I think just number one, trying to create an atmosphere for my children to have spiritual experiences. There was a pretty special experience that happened to us. So the Great Wolf Lodge is imagine a hotel with a water park in it. Yeah. That's what it is. I've got 5 kids. Not all of them can swim yet. So my 2 oldest can. Miles is my 4-year-old. He can't swim yet. And he had his life jacket on all day. And there was one time that we went down this water slide on this big tube together as a family, and he doesn't need his life jacket for that because he's sitting in this tube. It's not deep, and we're there with him. So he took it off. And it was me, him, and Benton, my 6-year-old, who's about to turn 7 next week. And we did the slide, came out, and I was walking in front of them. And I didn't know, but Miles had jumped into one of those, those lazy rivers that are flowing. He had jumped in just to jump in. Without his life jacket. And by the time I turned around, his younger brother who's a small little kid had jumped in to help his brother.
Wow.
And it was instinctive. He knew he needed to do it, right? And nothing happened. They got out. Benton, literally, that's my 7-year-old, 6-year-old now. He walked Miles. He got Miles to the stairs. They walked out. And I remember I pulled him aside because I knew I needed to. And I knelt down beside him and I said, Miles, what just happened? And Miles said, I jumped in the water, didn't have a life jacket. And I said, what did your brother? I said, Benny, what did you do? And he's like, I jumped in. He said, I jumped in after him. And I said, that's what brothers do. I said, that's what it means to be your brother's keeper. And it was just this experience where I knew he was feeling something special. Like he was having a spiritual experience.
Yeah, it's powerful.
And so I've tried to take the time to kind of slow things down with my kids and just help them recognize. My wife does a better job than me when they are having these spiritual experiences, because the language of the Spirit, we all got it, whether you're a member of this church or not. Everyone's got the opportunity to have those spiritual experiences. And so that's what Katie and I are trying to do. Just create atmosphere and environments, starting in our own home. That's where it's got to start, where kids can have these spiritual experiences and feel safe and secure.
Well, I love it because you didn't take them to the Great Wolf Lodge to thinking like, here's a spiritual experience at the Great Wolf Lodge, but you had the eyes to see when the spiritual experience happened. And so I would just say for parents, I love that you slow down in life a little bit, take time to actually see what's happening.
Yeah, in fact, most of the time it was the opposite of a spiritual experience for Katie and I.
It was chaos.
It was chaos, especially the plane ride.
I can only imagine. But even that, it's like, look at what God has to deal with in the chaos. He probably sees us living down here with, as his children. And but when one of his children is in trouble and another jumps in to save, like, how much more aligned is that with a savior than anything else in life, right?
Yeah.
And so for you to as a father, to take the moment to really express what just happened, help your children have the eyes to see what just happened, and to feel what just happened as well, is pretty powerful. And I would say just congratulations on being that type of father. It doesn't happen often enough. Our lives are too fast paced. We're going at a million different directions, and so many people bidding for our time and attention. And we've just got to slow it down a little bit and recognize, but the stewardship we have to help our children recognize is so important. So
yep.
Thanks for sharing that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's powerful. Let's see. I've got one last question. And if there's anything else you want to share, anything to be looking for from Ollin or from your family, you coming up that we should be paying attention to, or?
I mean, we've got some fun products that we're dropping this year, probably summertime. That's going to be pretty awesome, that I'm excited about.
Good.
So watch for that, and then just watch for the giant collaboration with Ollin and Mountain Ops guys. It's going to be massive.
I love it. I love it. It's incredible. I see these guys taking notes. We'll plan this collaboration after.
You can both hold those accountable now. Huh?
I do have a question that I like to ask. I don't know if I'll always ask this question in these podcasts, but I want to ask it. Have you read How You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen?
I've listened to some of it. This is what happens so my personality, I've always had a hard time getting through an entire book from start to finish. Always. Even on the mission, when we had hours set aside to just read, I'd always bounce around. So I catch myself, like, I'll be listening to like an audiobook. In fact, it was probably this one. And there's something that like really sticks with me, and then I go down tangents of like learning more about that principle, and next thing I know, I'm like listening to another book. So
I feel like in a lot of this conversation, I'm looking at myself, and you're a good looking man, so I'm like, okay, am I looking at? Didn't mean to. That was probably not a compliment for you, but so I'm the same way. I jump into these books and I listen to one thing, and then I'm like distracted by something or whatnot. But I do get into these deep dives. My deep dive the last like 3 weeks has been John 6, diving into the loaves and fishes and Christ walking on water, and the multiplication that he did with loaves and fishes, and what came first, the loaves and the fish. I don't know. I just get into these questions as I'm studying, and they take me down these rabbit holes, and then I'm like, oh, I haven't really gone very far, but I feel like at the same time I'm going a little deeper. This book that I reference, How Will You Measure Your Life, is one that we also read. We did Aspire by Kevin Hall. We've done a bunch of books, but How Will You Measure Your Life we've done twice. And I just feel like it's one of the more important books for anyone to read. If you're a business owner, if you're a husband, a wife, a father, a mother, whatever, it talks about investments in life and the ones that matter most. And so my question, I used the title of that book, and when all is said and done, as a conqueror in life, one that's gone all in so many important realms of life.
Trying to go all
in. And I love that it's a continual process, right? It's never ending. But how do you feel like when all is said and done, you'll measure your life?
Yeah, so All In, if you look at our logo, and Jordan Harbison, one of our partners, one of your partners, he's incredible at design. He puts a lot of thought into it. I mean, your guys' Mountain Ops logo is an icon, right? It'll always be in the space. And I think there was more inspiration behind the O that he designed with All In than he even thought at the time. That just going back to the ancient Aztec word, like All In, the logo has 4 different pillars to it, right? And when I look at it from the outside, I look at the middle, and I always see this word, and it's become, right? And then I look at the 4 pillars, and I categorize those as relationships, health, physical health, your spiritual health, and then your mind, right? And it's like those 4 areas in life, are all so important they should be so important to everybody. If you're not mentally in a good spot, it's really hard to keep a good relationship with yourself and with others. If you're not taking care of your physical body, you get drained and you can't focus on the things you need to focus on. And so Remind me your question at the beginning.
How will you measure your life?
Yeah, it's those 4 things. Am I taking care of those things in a responsible way that's allowing me to become the person my Heavenly Father wants me to become? And if I'm doing those things, and there's different times in life where I might have to focus more on my family relationships. I might have to focus more on my spiritual relationship with God. And so you're always kind of figuring out where to do those. But if I can do those things and become the person God wants me to become, I think I'm going to, essentially accomplish what He desires for me while I'm here on earth, and whatever that is, whatever capacity. And so that's kind of how, that's just something that's been on my mind a lot lately. The way that I treat people in relationships. I talk to my employees about this every time. I'm super big on personal development. And I challenge them, like, hey, if you don't feel like you're growing as an individual with your role here at Ollin, like, we have to chat and we need to move things around so that you're growing and becoming the person you need to become. And whether you're here the rest of the life of Ollin or you end up leaving, I want this to be a platform for you to develop new skills and become a better person that you can go take and apply to the next thing. And to me, that's super, super important, because a lot of people... I feel like a lot of businesses, they almost get like, they kind of ruin relationships if someone leaves. Yeah. And I want the opposite of that. Like, if someone decides they've got a new venture they got to pursue, I hope that they're going to be able to pursue that better because of their experience here. I love that. And that we can cheer them on in wherever area that they go. Yeah. And so that's something that's also super important to me. And I hope that my employees and that the relationships I have, they felt that when they came to know me. Like, I was trying to help them accomplish the vision, right? Become aware of what they could become. So
yeah, you've used the word become multiple times, and I absolutely love that. I love that you are trying to become something that God wants you to become, and that you're right. Kevin Hall says this. He says, they rise highest who lift as they go. So not only are you trying to become what God needs you to become, but you're also helping others do the same, right? And rising with others at the same time. I love that answer. It's you guys have focused on these 4 pillars of life at Mountain Ops. And in my personal life, we focus on this. It's our Conquer More challenge. It's the aspects of physical, spiritual, mental, social. We could say it in a few different ways, but it's building in those areas and those quadrants of life. And this is a godlike principle. It's taught in the Bible. Jesus grew and increased in stature and in wisdom and in favor and love with God and man. So with mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. Did I get those right? Spiritual, physical, mental, social. And so it comes back to Jesus Christ, his example. It's how he taught us to grow. It's how he taught us to become what God needs us to. So I love that answer. It's incredible. I've loved this conversation. I can't wait for the additional collaborations that we're about to do. We would love to be involved in the beginning of the year. It's a critical time for people. They're setting goals. They're setting, and people talk about, like, people set goals and then they fall off. Yeah, that happens. It's a natural tendency, but we're here to help them go a little longer, conquer a little bit more, and maybe make it 4 months instead of just 3, maybe 3 instead of just 2, and get them into a lifestyle of believing that they can become more than maybe they are today. And I feel like in business you can do that, as individuals you can do that, but why not spend our time in business developing and helping people grow and become what God needs them to be. So thank you for being here, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks for inviting
Incredible
us.
Conversation. Thanks for sharing your heart. And everyone listening, please like, comment, share. And maybe you open to doing like maybe a package giveaway with an Ollin system and some Mountain Ops products for this.
Yeah, should we just give them the truck we were going to buy you, Codes?
Oh, sweet. There's a truck, and I heard about this truck. It's no gimpy little truck. So let's do that.
Yeah, no, we'd be happy to, whether it's a gift card or whatever we need to do.
Okay, let's do that.
Happy to give some Ollin.
Appreciate it.
Swag and gift card away.
Okay.
If someone's not in the digiscoping yet, they can use the card for other things. So.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, perfect. Let's do that. Everyone, thank you. And Nathan, thank you. Let's go conquer more.
Sweet. Thanks, Trevor.